Hey, this is Scott Hambrick. This is Scott Stream. You can go to scotthambrick.com and get on my email list so that when we all get canceled, I can still get hold of you. You can also, won't be long here, and you'll be able to sign up for the zine, mimeographed hard copy newsletter or zine magazine. Will be shipped straight to your house, United States Postal Service. We're going to charge some money for that, but it'll be worth your while. Go there, scotthambrick.com, and sign up for that. And then you can check me out and our chat. There are a whole bunch of interesting people in there talking about interesting things in Telegram. This channel is called Scott Stream there in Telegram. The URL is t.me/ScottStream. You can go and follow there, and I schedule these, and you'll be able to see when we record those live. And then you can also get the URL for the Hambrick's chat group. It's a public chat group, and join all of us weird dissidents in there. Wanted to talk today about I want everybody to quit whining about getting canceled. Cancellation, has looked, we know what it's looked like, right? It's been something that's happened to people because they've said things that they're not supposed to say, and the HR department attacks them, or maybe they get swarmed on Twitter, or they get complained about on maybe Patreon or whatever, and lose their job, lose their ability to bank, those kinds of things. But it's starting to look different now. The cancellation is taking different forms, and one of them, the one that's most imminent for regular folks, is vaccine mandates at work. In our chat, in my emails from listeners that I'm getting, I'm seeing that in the last week, this is August 10th, in the last week, there have been a huge influx of companies that are requiring their employees to receive this not vaccine as a condition of employment. This is a shit test. This is a cosmic compliance test, in my opinion. This goes beyond whether you believe that the Wu flu was a real deal or not, whether you believe the vaccine's a real deal or not. These companies are testing their employees for compliance. Will you be compliant when we make extraordinary demands of you? That's what they're asking. I got an email from a guy named James. It's a great email. And he says, let me see, where is it here? He's been looking for a side hustle and shopping for some land. He says there's a good chance that I'll be out of work in 6 months due to a vaccine mandate. He sent this to me on the 9th. He works for a bank. He's worried about losing his job over this stuff. In our chat, we've got a whole bunch of people in there that are being asked to get the vaccine or take a walk. A dear friend of mine, his wife is a nurse. She's going to have to take the vaccine or lose her job at the big hospital here in our area. Well, we saw it coming, right? We saw this coming. We thought that the cancellation was going to look like your HR mammy, your pantsuit mommy in HR throwing you out, or you not getting the promotion because of some affirmative action bullshit where a mediocrity gets promoted above you. We've seen all of that. Well, this is the next step. This is the next way that you get canceled. And it's unfortunate, and I don't think it's right, and I hate it, and all of that. But it's time we got to stop fucking around with this, guys. On my blog, I don't know, a year ago, I posted about, we need to make sure that we're cancellation proof. It's going to happen. If you make it through this round, they're going to get you on the next one. Make yourself cancellation proof. You've got to find a way to make a living where you don't have to get permission from somebody to do that. You need to work right now. Right now, if you don't want to take the vaccine, if you don't like corporate culture, if you don't like the direction that this stuff is going in, and most of us don't, then you have to find a way right now, starting today, of making a living where you don't have to have permission from other people in order to make that living. You've got to start your side hustle. You've got to start your in-person business. Um, you've got to start trying to find other streams of income and get away from that job. Do not wait for them to tell you that there's the dog collar mandate, or don't wait to tell them that some dumb Pakistani has been promoted over you again, and your pay is static for 2 years while inflation has been double digits for 18 months. Don't be a victim in this stuff, guys. It's coming. Everybody can see it. It's as plain as day. You've got to get your side hustle going, because you're going to get canceled. You're going to get canceled. It's the cancellation is looking a little bit different than we thought it would maybe a year ago or 2 years ago or in 2015 and 2016, but it's coming. The cancellation is not necessarily it's not necessarily ideological and about identity politics necessarily. It's just about, helping, the powers that be identify who the us and who the them is. So you've got to find a way. You've got to find a way to make a living without people's permission. I'm going to let them know here in the chat that we're streaming. Yeah, they probably know. Online Great Books for me is making a little bit of money, not much, but a little bit of money, and that's helpful to me. I've got a pretty decent dividend income, and don't necessarily need that, but having a little bit of income there is a great help because inflation's so bad right now. That little bit is good because I don't need Online Great Books to be a drain on my resources, especially in the face of all of this inflation. My online coaching practice at Barbell Logic nets me some monthly income, which is very nice. That's my main non-dividend income. And I actually hope at some point to have some income off of the zine, which you can go and sign up. Go get on the email list at scotthamber.com if you're interested in that zine, and you'll be able to you'll get a notice of that the instant that thing comes out. So I've got some stuff going on, and I have other things as well that take place in the real world that help us be isolated from all of this ridiculous bullshit. You've got to find that for yourself. If that means you start a lawn mowing service, if that means that you start day trading, I don't know what your main proficiency is, but you're going to have to figure out what that is, and you're going to have to figure out a way to make a living with that without other people's permission, so they can't make these demands on you and they can't cancel you. You've got to do it because you are going to get canceled. This is a war, and this is the main weapon in this war, is depriving you from a living. I met with some dear friends of mine last night. We have at least once a month, we meet out here at my place, and 5 or 6 men and talk about what's bothering us and what's going on. And we met last night. I'm going to drink a little red beer here. Hang on. It's so hot right now. I worked this morning until about 11. It's too damned hot after 11 a.m. really to do much outside. And I drank 2 liters of water between 8 a.m. and 11. I drank coffee before then. I know that's not great. Drank 2 liters of water. Still not really hydrated. If I go drink one of these red beers or 2 of these, they've got so much sodium in them and so much acid in them that I drink these things and I just plump back up again. And they make me retain water, and they're perfect after going out there and sweating my ass off. Highly recommend the red beer. I'll put the recipe for that in the zine, which I was thinking about calling it Rebel Yell. One of our listeners suggested that, and I liked it. But I decided last night I'm not. I'm going to call it the Enclave, because it's going to be an enclave of dissident and neo-reactionary politics. So that's what we're going to call it. Anyway, these men last night came out and visited, sat on the porch, rocking chairs, and shot the breeze. We're talking about this very problem, about how do we resist this cancellation. And a couple of these guys are in construction, own their own sort of construction and contracting related businesses. One of them is an accountant and has his own practice. He's in good shape. Another guy is an IT professional and works from home. So it's unlikely that those guys will be gotten, but they have kids. But they have kids who need to be looking at, career paths. And I've got children that need to be looking at career paths that aren't permission based. Where they don't have to take permission to earn a living, so that they can have food and shelter from these neo-Marxist structures that we are all beholden to right now. And we were talking about how do they do that? And I think that we're going to end up, whoever we are, a sort of dissident, political dissidents, are going to end up being in a ghetto. It's not going to be a place. It's not going to be a place like Chinatown in San Francisco, or a ghetto in Warsaw, Poland in the 30s. It's going to be virtual. We can do business with each other over the internet. We can do business because of UPS and whatever. We can do a business from across the country. But I still think we're going to end up being in a ghetto, where we end up doing business with people who will not make these ideological demands on us, and they only demand good products and good service. We're going to have to find a way to make a living only dealing with our political allies. Think about that. Now, how can you do that? You're going to have to figure out a way. I'm very cautious about having far left individuals being members at Online Great Books, not because I have an ideological problem with those people, although I do. The Great Books process and the Socratic Seminar process isn't about political ideologies, and I understand all of that, but we cannot have a business or a service that can help so many people if, when we get canceled, half of our clients, or a large percentage of our clients are willing to drop us, quit, protest, bitch, gripe, report us to Yelp, PayPal, whoever, and undertake all this sort of cancellation stuff, right? So we try to do business with people who are sympathetic, and we try to not do business with people who aren't sympathetic. Now, that probably really, that makes a lot of people angry, probably. Well, I don't care, because the opposition is doing just that right now. Our friend BAP, not on Twitter. Trump, not on Twitter. They won't do business with those guys. Why am I supposed to do business with Twitter? Why am I supposed to do business with my ideological enemies? While we discuss ideas and politics and ethics and morals and all the things that matter the most at Online Great Books, I'm glad to do that with people who are opposed, whose thoughts aren't aligned with mine. I can't actually do business with them long term. It is a horrifically bad business plan to build a customer base of people that fucking hate you. So we don't do that. We do not do that. We do have clients there who are in opposition to us, for sure, and that's okay. and that's okay. But if they show that they're ideologically opposed to us and will, in fact, take action to police our speech, police my speech on my blogs or podcasts or so on, I refund all of their money to them. They're allowed to keep their books, and we show them the door. Because again, we cannot build a business on customers that hate us. I'm glad to talk with them. Again, this isn't ideological. This is business. And because our clients don't hate us ideologically, we're going to be okay. Business grows. It grows. The service grows more slowly. It suffers in a lot of ways, but we don't experience. We're not going to be facing sort of an existential threat if and when ye old cancellation comes for us. So when we were talking to these men, I was talking to these men, these friends of mine last night. We were talking about, we're going to have to be in this ghetto. We have to find a way to do business with people who will always continue to do business with us. As long we need to find a way to have a customer base of people who, want us to render a good service or a good product. The end, full stop. And to not do business with people who oppose us ideologically. And that's tough. But listen, guys, we're going to have an in-group preference here. Pay attention to who your clients are. Pay attention to who your allies are. Do business with them as much as possible. Stay away from gatekeepers. Please stay away from these people who give you permission, quote unquote, to make a living. So if you're working for a big company, you're probably going to have to find a way to get away from them. And you're going to have to do it now before they show you the door. Find the door yourself, put on your parachute of your own making, and get out before they get you. Do you guys have anything to say about this in chat? I'll just read a few of the things here in chat. There are guys in here. Guys, that's ladies too. That's ladies too that are discussing that their churches are closing down and requiring vaccines in order to attend services and receive sacrament. You understand that if your church is denying you sacrament, not because you haven't gone to confession, not because of your failings, but because of some earthly or political reason, that is no longer your church. You have to move on. That means we may have to start some churches, guys. I said the other day on Instagram that the trusted institution that you cherish has already betrayed you. You just don't know it yet. And I'm seeing it every day in my emails, in the chat, here in Telegram, my DMs and Instagram. They have already, I'm telling you, every institution of any size whatsoever in the United States, and probably in the whole West, has already betrayed you. You just don't know it yet. So be very, very careful. Put your radar out and make sure that you're very sensitive to this betrayal. And the instant you see it, strike out, create your own. I'm going to create a zine. Everybody thinks it's crazy. I'm going to mimeograph a newsletter and send it out. We can't use Instagram. We can't use Twitter. We need a way to talk to each other and get ideas to each other that isn't dependent on the internet, on domain controllers and stuff. If your church won't have services because Fauci and the CDC said something. Well, Fauci and the CDC is their new God, and the CDC decree is their new scripture. You can't go to church there anymore. You've got to move on. If you can't find one that hasn't betrayed you to the CDC as the new scripture, and the Fauci is the new God, then you'll have to start one. If your school is requiring you to take an experimental drug, or let's even say that it's not an experimental drug, let's just grant that it's a valid injection, let's just say, but you're opposed to taking a drug or a medication that has its basis in stem cell research because you have a religious prohibition against that, then you can't go to that school, guys. You can't go there. Quit trying to find a way to do it. Quit trying to find a way to make them accept you. Don't fill out the religious exemption to go to class. Don't do it. Fucking leave. They've told you you're not welcome. Leave. And if that means you have to change your career, if that means you have to change your plans, if that means you have to start a new school, do it. Because, guys, we're not welcome everywhere else in those other places. Caleb says none of this vaccine stuff will matter when the biscuit wars go worldwide. So some of you people don't know that there is a war going on right now over the breakfast biscuit. Producer Trent, who does the Music and Ideas podcast with Carl Shute and I, his wife makes a pretty decent biscuit. They're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. She makes a pretty decent biscuit, though when compared to mine, it seems as like it's hardtack or maybe a pita or something like that. And she and I have been battling it out on Instagram with pictures and pictures of our biscuits. But Kayla says, just wait until the British get involved. Yeah, the British don't know. Leave those fucking schools, guys. Leave those jobs and go find a way right now to make a living that isn't dependent on these people that hate you, that isn't dependent on these people that don't share your God and your scripture. Stop. Derek says, it's very possible to make your own way. I've been self-employed for 10 years and started with almost nothing. It's not that hard to make in the low six figures with your own gig if you're willing to pursue a good opportunity, even if you might not be wildly passionate about it. I agree. I really haven't had a job since I was a grocery sacker at Homeland grocery stores in the late 80s and the early 90s. Didn't have any money, and by golly, got some. So you can do it. It takes time. I always tell people that are asking me about starting their own business, I always tell them it takes 3 years. You'll be poor as a church mouse and busy as hell for 3 years, and then you'll get a breath and you'll see that it's working. Go do it. Go do it. Ignatius Rogers on chat says, this is basically the Benedict option stuff. Build parallel institutions and show a better way. It is. You know, the conservatives, so-called conservatives, like that asshole Ben Shapiro is always like, well, go build your own Twitter or whatever. Well, you know, we really can't do that. We can't really build a Twitter. Twitter has the network effect. And once an app or a company has the network effect, you really can't get it away from them. You know, we can't create another Amazon and get it to go to scale. Can't do it. But we don't need that. We don't have to go build our parallel tech institutions like that. We just need to find a way to make a fucking living, guys. You know, start a lawn mowing service, you know, whatever your thing is, and get it going. Don't ask for permission to make money. Don't interview for a job, because if you have to ask for permission, or if you have to interview, that permission and that job that they gave you can be revoked. Don't do that. Of course, if we're self-employed and we have our own clients, we can get fired. We don't have one client like employed people do. We have hundreds, and we can weather the storm. We're going to have to maybe start your own church. One of the people in chat says, a church that stands up for its own values and doesn't crumble under the social pressure has more balls than the McDonald's ball pit. Yeah, and I don't know which one that would be. I mean, I think I know of a couple. There's well, I'm not even going to name them because they'll get attacked. I'm not even going to name them, but there are some out there. There are some out there, but they are few and far between. In fact, I know of two churches that aren't home churches that aren't cucked. One of them's in my state and one of them isn't. And of course, every phone book, if anybody has phone books, every town is full of hundreds, if not thousands, of churches. And I'm aware of two that aren't garbage. But you have to start it. So, a friend of mine, his wife, dear friend, his wife is going to school. They're getting ready to be empty nesters. The kids are getting ready to leave home, and a mom has been a stay-at-home mom and a wonderful mother to the kids, and they don't need her in the same way now. And they're going to move off and do their thing like all young people should do. And she's working on getting a degree so she can pursue some new employment after having stayed home with the kids for 20-some years. So she's going to I don't know, night school or maybe online school or something to get this degree. And my wife and I were talking about this morning, and I hate the word career. I don't want to say that. So the vocation that she's wanting to pursue, almost certainly, once she finishes this degree, will almost certainly require her to have a vaccination as a condition of employment. I think she needs to quit the school right now and make a pivot. I think she needs to make a pivot instantly. Don't throw good money after bad. Don't throw good time after bad. It's unfortunate. She has, I don't know, maybe 2 semesters left to receive the accreditation she needs to move on and get the employment that she wants. But she needs to punt and do something different instantly. It's over. And don't make any mistakes, guys. This is not the end of it. Take the vaccine if you want. Don't take the vaccine if you want. If you think the vaccine's a great idea, go take the fucking thing. I don't really care what you do, but you've got to understand that employers are making these demands of you that are deeply personal. And this is not the end of that. It's not the last of it. There aren't going to be like a few boosters and then it'll be different and we'll kind of go back to normal. This is a new era in which private companies, your employers, make deeply personal demands of you as a condition of employment. So even if you're okay with the vaccine today, you need to understand they've kicked the down, and now they're going to be able to make other demands that are unrelated to your job, unrelated to the skill set you bring to them, unrelated to the traditional employer-employee contract. This is the beginning of an entirely new paradigm of employee-employer relations. Even if you're okay with the vaccine, you need to fucking get out. Gentleman here on chat says, wife and I were talking recently about how my dad kind of wants me to be a beta. Raised me with low confidence, go the easy route, blah, blah. It took me a while, but I ultimately have said no. He says, I realize our conversation, I do not need permission to make money. I've recently begun training folks, learning the challenges therein, figuring stuff out. I do not need permission to be successful, and I will not apologize. I think this goes to a point you made. Hey, well, thanks. Good. He says, a vax is a personal choice. Do we flag folks for whether they've gotten abortions? Yes, we should. In fact, if it's important and you think it's evil, it would be very, very important if you could identify the people that have undertaken that evil and have not repented from it. Yep. Let's talk about betas for a minute. Most of us are betas, guys. Alphas are horrible. I'm no alpha. And not everybody's one thing, right? In certain situations, somebody might be a quote unquote beta, might be an alpha, might be a omega, whatever. Like we're not one thing, and in all of our roles, we act the same way. I have one of my brother-in-laws who I love dearly is a lineman. He's a high voltage electrician, essentially. He's a lineman, and his job's incredibly dangerous. I'm 21 years older than him. But man, when he's talking about that stuff, he's in charge. Like, I completely defer to him entirely in that way. Yeah. So it's okay. It's okay to not be on top, all the time. Yeah. This gentleman says his point was more the ridiculousness of double standards that he was talking about his father having. Well, I understand that, but I just wanted to defend the beta. Vox Day has recently, I don't know, in the last 6 months, maybe the last year, he stopped referring to betas as betas. He's now calling them bravos. And the example he gives is Goose in Top Gun. Maverick is the alpha, and Goose isn't. He's the second guy. He's an enormous help to Maverick. He is super reliable. He's a good-looking guy. And, when they go to the bar, he's got good-looking women. He just doesn't have to be in front all the time. He's not Trump. He doesn't have to be loud. He doesn't have to be in the center of attention. He doesn't have to jockey for status all the time, but he's a super solid guy who is still desirable in the socio-sexual marketplace, So the beta thing has become really derogatory. Zach says, who says there's only one type of alpha? Well, if it means anything, then there's one type. And if there are other types, we need to give those other names. But I had been thinking about this quite a bit lately, and I was wondering, if there is a guy who is a true alpha, and there really aren't very many. A lot of people, aspire to that, and they write stupid newsletters about it and whatever. But there really aren't very many. I would say that Trump was one. Loud, flamboyant, in charge, grandiose, attracts a great deal of attention. He is what he is. And that's what an alpha is. Can those guys be good parents, particularly to sons? I'm not sure they can. I'm not sure they can. I'm not sure that they can set their ego aside, and I'm not sure that they can subordinate their needs for attention and approval to the raising of children. I'm not sure. Vox Day is the guy who really fleshed out this whole socio-sexual hierarchy stuff with the people at Chateau Heartiste, which doesn't exist anymore, in Royce. But you can go to Alpha Game, his old blog, and read this, where he says, hey, here's what Vox calls the alpha. The alpha is the tall, good-looking guy who is the center of both male and female attention, the classic star of the football team who is dating the prettiest cheerleader, the successful business executive with the beautiful, stylish, blonde, size 0 wife. All the women are attracted to him while the men want to be him or at least be his friend. At a social gathering like a party, he's usually the loud, charismatic guy telling self-flattering stories to a group of attractive women who are listening with interest. However, alphas are only interested in women to the extent that they exist for the alpha's gratification, physical and psychological. They are actually more concerned with their overall group status. Seems right. Here's what Vox says of the beta. The betas are the good-looking guys who aren't as uniformly attractive or socially dominant as the alpha, but are nevertheless confident, attracted to women, and do well. At the party, they're the loud guys' friends who show up with the alcohol and who are flirting with the tier 1 women and cheerfully pairing up with the tier 2 women. Betas tend to genuinely like women and view them in a somewhat optimistic manner, but they don't have a lot of illusions about them either. They tend to be happy, secure in themselves, and are up for anything their alpha wants to do. When they marry, it is not infrequently to a woman who was one of the alpha's former girlfriends. Now, Vox has what he calls the delta. Delta, the normal guy. Deltas are the great majority of men. They can't attract the most attractive women, so they usually aim for the second tier women with very limited success and stubbornly resist paying attention to all of the third tier women who are comfortably in their league. This is ironic because deltas would almost always be happier with their closest female equivalents. When a delta does manage to land a second tier woman, he is constantly afraid that she will lose interest in him and will not infrequently drive her into the very loss of interest he fears by his nonstop dancing of attendance upon her. In a social setting, the deltas are the men clustered together in groups, each of them making an occasional foray towards various small gaggles of women before beating a hasty retreat when direct eye contact and engaged responses are not forthcoming. Deltas tend to put the female sex on pedestals and have overly optimistic expectations of them. If a man rhapsodizes about his better half or is an inveterate white knight, he is almost certainly a delta. Deltas like women, but find them mysterious, confusing, and are sometimes secretly a little afraid of them. So you can see Vox has a little different understanding of this stuff. It's not just clean cut. There's alpha, and then there's everything else. And I think that his sociosexual hierarchy has huge explanatory power. But anyway, I've been thinking about this. You know, can a genuine alpha be an attentive, good father, particularly to sons, given their concern with group status, their concerns with self-flattery, their often narcissistic tendencies? I don't know. Maybe they can. I don't know. Then Vox also has the Omega, which is the truly unfortunate. They are the social losers who are never in the game, sometimes creepy, sometimes damaged, often clueless, always undesirable. They are not at the party. It would never have crossed anyone's minds to invite them in the first place. Omegas are either totally indifferent to women or hate them with a homicidal fury. Sigma. The Sigma is the outsider who doesn't play the social game and manages to win at it anyway. The Sigma is hated by alphas because Sigmas are the only men who don't accept or at least acknowledge, however grudgingly, their social dominance. Alphas absolutely hate to be laughed at, and a Sigma can often enrage an alpha by doing nothing more than smiling at him. Everyone is vaguely confused by them. In a social situation, the Sigma is the man who stops in briefly to say hello to a few friends, accompanied by a tier 1 girl no one has ever seen before. Sigmas like women, but tend to be contemptuous of them. They're usually considered to be strange. Gammas often like to think they are Sigmas, failing to understand that Sigmas are not social rejects. They are at the top of the social hierarchy despite the refusal to participate in it. Yeah. The Gamma. Let's read about the Gamma. Let's read about the Gamma. The Gamma, I have shit on Gammas on my blog many, many times and will continue to. They need to be destroyed. Gamma, the introspective, the unusual, the unattractive, and the all too often bitter. Gammas are often intelligent, usually unsuccessful with women, and not uncommonly all but invisible to them. The Gamma alternates between placing women on pedestals and hating the entire sex. This mostly depends on whether an attractive woman happened to notice his existence or not that day. Too introspective for their own, Gammas are the men who obsess over individual women for extended periods of time and supply the ranks of stalkers, psychojealous ex-boyfriends, and the authors of excruciatingly romantic rhyming doggerel. In the likely Patui, in the unlikely event they are at a party, they're probably in the corner muttering darkly about the behavior of everyone else there, sometimes to themselves. Gammas tend to have a worship-hate relationship with women, the current direction of which is directly tied to their present situation. However, they are sexual rejects, not social rejects. The Gamma is a disgusting person. It is a male. I have heard people say that the Gamma is a spiritually female male. They are prone to gossip. They want to prove themselves to be special to the group. They are online. They are the person that says, so what you're saying is, or the person that says, actually, that's the gamma. If you have a gamma on your in your charge at work or in your business, fire that fucker immediately. Fire them. The gamma will be is often intelligent and can be helpful, but they do display these sort of splitting behaviors where they either are your best friend or your worst enemy. They will eventually end up being your worst enemy. They are not reliable. They have zero loyalty, zero honor, and they do not understand how social hierarchies work, and they will destroy any social hierarchy they're in eventually. Owen says, gammas are too common. They are too common. They are too common. Caleb says, which generation has the most wise? I guess that's the gammas. He would think millennials. I don't know. I don't know. Owen says, I dealt with one, a gamma, who was a treasurer on a board, literally ruined everything with smart boy nonsense constantly. If I have somebody in my mentions or in my DMs or whatever, who's always trying to, clarify things with like insightful nuance, I just block them because, it's just an intellectual dick measuring contest with those people. And they actually don't ever have anything interesting to say, and they're poisonous. So I boot those people out. Yeah, boot them out. If you go look at my blog, there's a whole argument that I had with some gamma about problematicism, and they just think they're so clever and they can't possibly conceive that the person who has more social status to them than them, who has, an audience or has a group of people listening to him tell a story at a party, actually is more interesting, commands more respect than them. They can't conceive of that. They can't conceive of the fact that that person may be brighter than them, is more interesting than them, more accomplished than them. So they can't conceive of it. They project so much. They're nauseating. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I just pray that all of you work super hard to obtain your own employment and your own income, because you're going to have to. And when we can, we need to do business with each other. Yeah. Anything about that stuff before I move on? Chat? Anything about that, chat? While chat is typing, I see some people are typing. I'll mention this about gammas. I do this show. Well, you guys listen to it. Sometimes I do it live and record it, and I just publish it as a podcast. Sometimes I record it on my iPhone and publish it as a podcast. I never edit these. I never process the audio. I don't do any of that. I'm so busy. I mean, I'm not here to like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so important. Man, I got a lot of stuff to do. A lot of stuff I do is menial. I spent hours this morning hauling water and watering pecan trees. It's just hard work, but I got stuff to do. And so I don't process the audio. I don't edit it. I try to do this cheaply. I try to talk to people and have this community at a low cost, both in time and money. Gammas have to contact me and let me know what I could do to improve the audio quality of the show. They complain about the audio quality of the show, or they complain about the content, which costs them nothing and is offered as a courtesy by me. That's the gamma. That's the gamma. Just nonstop with those people. Well, I got an email here from James. I thought I'd read this. It just pleased me. it just pleased me. Thank you for sending this, James. He says, Scott, hope you are doing well, man. I'm a dude from a traditionalist Catholic family raised in the Northeast. 5 years ago, I was on all the social medias, willingly listened to rap, and was begrudgingly voting for Trump. I don't know about that. But he says, now I have 20% of my net worth in Bitcoin, think that the deep state is the number one threat to what's left of our democracy, and now finally get that you're either betting with the Fed or against it. I don't consider myself a conservative. He says, thanks, you were the final nail. Look at land-only properties in South Dakota for fun, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What the hell? He says, I make good money working for a bank in North Carolina. There's a good chance that I'll be out of work in 6 months due to a vaccine mandate since I won't be reconstructed and I don't give a damn. I have a 4-month-old in the hopes of having a large family. He says, I can't ask you questions on any of the social media since I'm reformed. So, social media reformed. So I thought I might ask you here to get your take on my situation. What is going on? What should I be thinking about or doing right now? Goodness. It's tough. I still think you got some shit wrong, James. I love you, man. You got the rap thing right. Rap is music by retards for retards. Don't listen to it. It's disgusting. Good job getting off social media. I should. Darn it. But you say the deep state is the number one threat to what's left of our democracy. We don't have a democracy. We never have had a democracy. So you're going to have to let go of that here. I'm glad you're not a conservative any longer, and I'm glad you're looking for some land. This is what should I be thinking about or doing right now? What we were just talking about. You've got to find a way to make a living without the permission of other people. You've got to find a way to reach your customers with no gatekeeper. You've got to do it. Because as long as they as long as they are standing between you and the client, your employer is standing between you and your client, you and your family are at great risk. And I don't want you guys to be at risk. Find a way to get those clients on your own and bill them on your own. And don't let these people who want to force you to take a vaccine to make money. You've got to get them out of the way. And I hope you do. Listen, it's high stakes. You've got a kid, you want more. Don't let these people do this to you. Don't let them do it. Hey, there's Zach. He just joined the group. Hey, Zach. Daniel says, if I had a son, would I teach him explicitly about these male types? If so, what age? No. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, but not till he was old. I mean, I would probably say, that I would point out to the son that there were these domineering types who, want all this attention and so on. And I would tell them, I would kind of help them figure out, how to manage relationships with the alpha type. I would certainly point out that there were kinds of people that, the gamma. I would point out those kinds of people and describe the problems of dealing with those kinds of people, but without going into all of the specific types and the whole, sexual marketplace aspects of it. I think maybe by the time they're 16, 17, 18, that might be worth doing. But until then, I wouldn't do that. But knowing, hey, listen, so-and-so, he's an alpha type. He wants all this attention, if you need to correct him or talk to him, do that, take him aside. Don't do that in front of other people, etc. That kind of coaching like that, that could be informed by knowledge of it, I think could be helpful. But I wouldn't pour that on them early on. but it's always good to point out the disgusting gamma and to point out to people how to get the hell away from those people. Yeah, so back to Jason's email. Hey, listen, man, you've got to find a way to be employed. Get out of the town, find a way to make money on your own. That's the imperative. That's what you've got to do. And for the rest of you, that's the same. I keep going on and on and on about this. You've got to find a way. Do it today. Do it every day. Do one thing that will move you closer to obtaining an income from your own client, from your own customers, and do that every single day. If you do one small thing every day, by and by, you'll get there. Because here's the deal. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your job. You may lose your job because your Fortune 500 employer went woke and therefore went broke, and there is no job anymore. Everything has changed, guys. And for you to act like it hasn't changed is foolish and is putting you and yours in grave danger, I say. So let's figure this out and find a way to make a living and take care of ourselves. Yes. Let's see if anybody wants to throw any questions out, or otherwise we'll punt this thing off and push it out on the Scott Stream podcast feed. Again, I'm going to keep shilling. Oh, all you do is shill. Shut up, Gamma. Go to Telegram. Look for Scott Stream. t.me/Scott Stream. Join that there. When I have one of these chats, I'll schedule it. I scheduled this one for kind of short notice. I gave about an hour and a half's notice, but I'll schedule those, and you can pop in, ask questions, kind of be part of it, and then we have a pretty awesome little chat group. Really interesting people that are trying to do the right thing and every day in every way. So I just that chat, which I actually don't participate in much. It's mostly us, right? It's mostly people that think about the kinds of things that I talk about and are interested in that, and they're in there talking about those things in that chat. So if you join up, you'll in Telegram, you can go join that up, and going Patui, go join that as well. I did buy a mimeograph machine, bought an awesome completely restored 1970s mimeograph machine. That thing should be here very soon. Built a form, subscription form and such for scotthambrick.com. I'll be putting that up here pretty soon. And if you want to get the zine that we're going to be putting out, you can go sign up there soon. It's not quite there yet, but it will be soon, and you can go sign up. I'm not going to charge your credit card for the zine until I have 50 subscribers. So when you go sign up for that, it's only going to be an authorization. We actually won't we won't hit your card until we know that we've got a critical mass of 50. I don't think that's a big ask. We should get to 50 fairly soon. Owen says, this chat is awesome. No one has tried to cancel anyone in here. Well, I'll kick their ass out. Ignatius says, how did you teach your kids entertainment literacy, like Neil Postman, McLuhan type of thing? He says, did you actually have them read it, or is it coming mostly from me? No, well, they certainly haven't read Marshall McLuhan or Saul Alinsky or Edward Bernays or any of that stuff that I've spent so many hours talking about. We mostly just kept them away, or kept that stuff away from them. We kept entertainment, as it were, mostly away from them. We haven't had cable television. We don't go to movies. We've just kept that stuff away. And as a result of that, when they've really been introduced to it, or not introduced to it, but when it's been put in front of them, they were old enough that they viewed it foreign, and they could see it for what it was. If you've exposed a kid to these things from the very instant they were born, they just think it's normal, and as a result of that, they can't see it critically, they can't see it as it is. But it was completely new to my kids when that stuff would get in front of them, and they could see it. It was foreign to them, so they could look at it like an alien and say, what is this? Why do all of these commercials have mixed race couples in them? Like, what is this? They were able to see those things as they were. Ignatius says, keeping them away from the entertainment stuff is good. We don't have a TV, but I just want them to be ready when they're on their own. Well, I think that's good enough. This brings up another topic. I've been thinking about the boomers. As you know, I love to hate some boomers. But, it's not their fault. What happened? Why are they the way they are? What happened? I think mostly we all hold their parents' generation in pretty high esteem. I think a lot of that is undeserved, frankly, but let's just go with it. No, let's not go with it. I think that their parents are actually responsible for an enormous amount of evil. That generation, the boomers take all kinds of credit for political change, but they didn't do any of it. Brown versus the Board of Education, I think, is 1953. Civil Rights Act is 1964. When the boomers were, mostly kids. Roe v. Wade, they weren't on the Supreme Court. That was all a bunch of the greatest generation. All these things that who invented the birth control pill? Not a boomer. They actually they're not responsible for almost any of the things socially that they think are so great and they love to take credit for. Going to a concert in upstate New York in the late 60s isn't a political act and did precisely nothing. You might argue that maybe, Kent State did something and whatever, but mostly the boomers in their activism in the 60s and 70s amounted to precisely nothing. The political influence that they have had has been through their degeneracy, the fact that they can't stay married, the fact that in 1983, about 30% of all pregnancies supposedly ended in abortion. 1983 is when the peak of the boomers turned 18 years old. They can't stay married as a group. They can't stay married. They've killed millions of their own children. They've neglected the rest of them, so on. Why are they so degenerate? What happened so that so many of them rejected the values of their parents? Now, I mentioned a bunch of, progressive, disgusting political events that revolutionized our country, that were perpetrated by the quote unquote greatest generation. But that wasn't most of them, right? Like most of the greatest generation, whatever that means, were like my grandmother, and they were busy canning and taking care of their kids and trying to be decent folk. My grandmother wasn't out, marching for abortions and, open borders. She wasn't doing that. What happened? Well, I've been thinking about this a great deal, and I think we're back to this question about entertainment literacy and technology literacy. Radio appeared, and then later television appeared, and World War II happened. World War II caused the American people to be a intranational diaspora. My dad's dad, his brothers, a number of them were moved during World War II, either because they were in the military or because they were they moved to California to work for defense contractors. It busted the family up. Some of them returned, others never really did. But a lot of people, left home and didn't come back, and it broke up a lot of communities. So that greatest generation, whether they intended to or not, busted up a lot of community. And then the economic growth that took place, where everybody got a phone, a car, a television, a radio, happened so quickly that we didn't have good answers about how to use those things. The Amish will use the telephone for business only, if at all. And they don't. And the reason they use it for business only is because they don't want it to affect their community. They don't want you to call your grandma. They want you to get in your horse and buggy and go see her. So they've thought very carefully about how to use technology. Well, the Greatest Generation didn't do that, and they got blindsided by it. I don't want to blame them for it. They got blindsided, and the Boomers were raised by television. They were exposed to all of this when it was brand new and completely innocent about it, and it was a huge disaster. Huge disaster. It's always been a mystery to me how it happened and why it happened that the Boomers almost entirely rejected the values of their parents and their grandparents. And I've started to realize, well, it's not that they rejected them; they were never taught them, because public school and college, technology, and then mobility, all those things that happened as a result of that in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. We can talk about school. My grandmother, she didn't go to a lot of school. I don't actually know when she dropped out. Probably 5th, 6th grade, something like that. Charity's grandfather, same story. And I think that's actually a good thing. They dropped out. They got the basics that they needed in life, and then dropped out and took life on. They dropped out because they had to. It was the Great Depression. My grandmother needed to help with the rest of the family and help them, help work and get them through. But she kept a meticulous checkbook with perfect arithmetic, great bookkeeping. She ended up running a grocery and had all the skills she needed to do that on not very many years of education. Charity's granddad was a skilled technician and worked for American Airlines until he retired on what most people would say is an inadequate education. I disagree. I don't think anyone, well, I can tell you this. I went to school K through 12, and then I went and got a 4-year degree, and I didn't really learn much after 8th grade. Some factoids. Most schooling is indoctrination and making you ready for Trivial Pursuit. But the graduation rates among the baby boomers skyrocketed compared to that of their parents. And I actually think that is a big problem, and one of the reasons that they rejected their parents' values. And it's not even a rejection. They were never taught them. They never even had an opportunity to reject them. Yeah. Zach says the Greatest Generation, a lot of them were pretty stoic, likely from the war. Yeah, I think that's right. Between the Great Depression and the war, I'm sure a huge number of those people were suffering from PTSD. Didn't really talk about that at the time, but they were probably suffering from PTSD, probably a lot of alcoholism, probably a lot of really detached people who weren't as involved in their kids' lives as they might have been if they hadn't been in the war in the Pacific, for example. But this brings up some topics for some other shows in the future, like shunning as practiced by the Amish. The Amish and the Mennonites have been very, very thoughtful for about almost 500 years now about what technology they will adopt and what they'll use that technology for. And I think that we all need to be just as mindful about technology and what technology we allow into our communities, into our homes, and what we use those technologies for. the Amish call the practice of I don't know, rejecting the modern world. They call that shunning. And I think that we should probably do a shot at that, because if we are going to create our own sort of economic ghetto where we do business with each other and don't require ridiculous mandates of each other except to provide good services and goods, then we're going to have to, as a part of that, we're going to have to shun. We have to shun the outer world. Eric says, school has destroyed much of our culture too. It's a leviathan. It's social work, sports, clubs, music, art, academics, etc., usurping family and community's role in developing it. Yeah, I think that's right. Hell, I know that's right. Well, there's another one. Eric had emailed me, or I don't know, maybe he texted me. I don't remember, and said, "What are we going to talk about next time?" And I said shunning. We didn't get it today, but we do need to get to that. We need to talk about the Amish Ordnung, their kind of rule of life. We need to talk about the rule of Benedict probably, and shunning, and and help each other figure out, how are we going to deal? How are we going to deal with this stuff? How are we going to deal with the new things that come at us? And what expectations are we going to have of ourselves and our families, our communities, in the face of these new things that we see? Yeah. Well, anything else, y'all? Well, if there isn't, no one's typing. If there isn't, we'll just wrap this up. Again, go to scotthambrick.com. Get on the email list, guys. You got to get on the email list. I haven't even emailed that list before. I don't use that email list. I don't intend to use it. But if you go there and sign up, go to scotthambrick.com. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. You can get on the email list. Then I'll have your email. And if we get separated somehow because of the great cancellation, then we'll have a way to reach each other. And I do intend to email that list as soon as we get the order form up for the Enclave, the new zine. All right, y'all. Thanks for visiting with me here on a Tuesday afternoon. And if you got an idea for a future show or something you want to hear us talk about, send that right on over to me, and we'll get it done. All right. Thank you.